Yesterday, I went to the cinema to watch the new Exorcist film, The Exorcist Believer, and wow, this was a film. I was not excited for this film. The trailers didn't sell me. The concept didn't sell me. I don't think a requel formula fits the Exorcist franchise, in my opinion. And yeah, this film is terrible. I'm basically just going to go through the entire film. I'm basically going to spoil near enough the whole thing. I know at the end I'm going to give some other points of why I just did not like this film. Because even if you're like the most die-hard Exorcist fan, and you'll defend all the sequels with your last dying breath, I really cannot suggest this film to you at all. So let's get into it. So the film starts off in Haiti where we follow this couple. The guy's a photographer and the woman is pregnant. And it's a massive earthquake and the woman is seriously injured by it. And the guy has to make a really difficult choice. Save his child or save his wife. And obviously he saves the child because, well, she's involved in the movie. And this opening scene and the scene after it is fine. It is a decent opening. We feel sympathy for the main character. We understand what he wants in life. And we also get what the girl wants in life. She wants to see her mother again. So we have our motivations. We have our conflict. We see that they don't get along. It's a decent opening scene. You know, you like the characters. But unfortunately, if you're not these two characters, you're getting no characterization, baby, because the other family, this religious family, the girl in this who's about to get possessed, this family gets no characterization at all. Seriously, none. They have nothing interesting about them, no good backstories, no nothing. They are dull and boring, and it just makes this side of the exorcism and the story just feel completely useless. But anyway, so the two girls, they go to school, and then they run off into the woods where they try to call out their mum. And of course, they go missing. And they go missing for 3 days, you know, they all do search parties for them. And then the two girls show up in a little barn. And then they get taken to the hospital, and this is where we get our first laughable moment. The girl that is really boring, to show that she's getting possessed, she just like smothers her hands all over like the window and like rubs her face all over it. Like it just looks so silly the way she does it. It's just one of the few laughable moments in this film which you just cannot take seriously whatsoever. So the main girl goes home, they both go home, and then they both start seeing demon faces, demon versions of themselves. And then it's the next morning and the main girl, who is covered in blood when she wakes up. And so her dad takes her to the bathroom, switches the bath on, and then he goes back in, and his daughter's not there. And this is one thing I didn't get, by the way. The water is just really muddy and mossy. Like, where's this come from? Like, what? It never comes back later in the movie. Like, it just happens. It was so weird. So yeah, he sees that. He sees, like, nails all over the side of the bath and in the bath. And then we get... we finally get this movie's attempts at horror. It's an awful jump scare where his daughter comes up behind her with her mother's scarf, like puts it round him, like strangles him, tries to suffocate him. And then she goes out the door closes automatically behind her. They open the door again, and she's like, like getting possessed. And the jump scare of her suffocating her dad was so bad, like so bad. Like you can see it happen like 2 seconds before it happens. And the film still feels it needs to make this loud noise to, you know, make you jump. It was so bad, so bad. And then we see the other girl, and this is the best part of this movie because it is so funny. So they're in the church, they're all saying prayers, saying, you know, God has, you know, brought back our lost sheep. And then she goes out the church and then comes back in and goes walking down the aisle. And she keeps shouting the body and the blood. And she says it in this weird accent and says it in, like, this weird way. Like, every time she says it, she, like, just stops instantly. So it's like, the body and the blood. The body and the blood. And the child actress is really not doing a good job in this scene. But I've got to be a bit lenient, you know. They are still young. And to be fair, you know, I'll get into a little positive now. The two child girls in this film, they're pretty good. They're actually pretty decent in this film. They probably give, like, the best performances. Even though they have their moments where they're a little laughable, I really have to praise them. I think they actually did a pretty decent job of what they were given. So both of these girls are fully possessed now. And so the main guy, and this is where we get the cameo fest. Woohoo! The really cool thing. And also this is where we get a shoved in plot line where this former nun reveals that she had an abortion. And like she's lost her faith a little bit. And it sets up a decent arc for her to regain her faith and, you know, be more powerful. It's a good little attempt, but unfortunately, yeah, this story arc hardly goes anywhere, hardly gets developed. So then we go and meet Chris from the first film. I'll get this out of the way. The actress playing her is clearly throwing it in. She's just there for the money so she could do this scholarship. She turned down the script so many times for this. She even said it felt like it was making a deal with the devil, which the way they treated her character, I can tell why. So she keeps explaining that every religion does like, you know, possession stuff, exorcisms differently. Voice crack there. And yeah, and then she goes to the main town, and then we get this awful moment where one of the girls is in like this, you know, hollow room. She's clearly being possessed. And the woman just goes, oh, she knows who I am and everything. And then the girl just disappears in the room and then she pops up out the windows. It's another terrible jump scare. You know what's happening. It's in the trailer. But the character reactions are so different. The main guy's like, ooh. And then Chris is just like, what? Like, it's so clear that the actress really just didn't care about this film. But who could blame her, to be honest? And then we get into this awful scene. So they go to the boring family's house. And, you know, the girl is fully possessed. Her family are so scared and everything. Chris goes up to the bedroom and this is where we get an absolutely weird scene. For one, it features one of my most biggest pet peeves with exorcism films where they just, like, hold up a cross and go like, get out of her body! Get out of there! Get out! Shoo! Away with you! Like, it's like just turning like an angry dog just to piss off. Like, it's so bad. I hate that flipping trope in these exorcism movies. And then the demon keeps saying to Chris, like, are you looking for Reagan? Are you looking for Reagan? She burns in hell and everything. Clearly indicating that she's dead. I forgot to mention, actually, Chris and Reagan are not on speaking terms. They fell out. This hardly goes anywhere, by the way. And then Chris's little side quest ends here because the demon girl picks up a cross and stabs her eyes out. And then she gets put in a hospital. And, yeah, we hardly see her again. That's her whole point in the story. Like, I'm sick of this. Like, you bring back old characters for them to do absolutely nothing with the story. That's all Chris does. Absolutely nothing. And then we get to the third act, which is where this film completely goes off the rails. I'm just gonna, like, flipping say this now. They basically assemble the Avengers of priests. Like, there's this one shot in the church where they're all just, like, standing side by side. Like it's the Avengers ready to take on this demon. It's such a laughable shot. And then all these, like, little mini plots just come in. Like, the priest doesn't want to go in there. The dad of the boring girl doesn't want to go into the room and see this exorcism happen. And here we are. We're just, like, gathering around these two possessed girls, doing everything we can to get the demon out of them, and it's not working. And they eventually get somewhere a little bit, and then we get this awful looking, like, CGI vapor. It looked like something out of Microsoft Paint. It looked awful. But yeah, that all happens, and then we get into the dumbest part of the movie, and this is where I'm going to get a bit serious. So the two girls go like, you know, you need to pick who lives and who dies. Basically saying one of the girls has to die and one has to live. And then we get a really big reveal where the main guy apparently wanted to save his wife other than his child. And so, of course, the child, well, the demon knows this and keeps, like, tormenting him. And it's building up. It's looking like he's going to say, I want to save the boring girl. And then all of a sudden, the priest that's too scared to come in comes in at the last minute, starts like holding up two crosses. And then I'll give the movie this. It does have a pretty cool death where he touches the heads of the two girls and like they snap his neck like fully around. It's like a little homage to the 360 neck spin in the original film. And it was a cool little death. It looked quite cool, so I'll give the movie that. And then we go back to making a decision. And I thought they were going to pull some out their arse saying like, oh, we're going to save you both. You know, this is how we're doing it. But then they decide to save one girl, which is the main girl, the non-boring one, and kill off the boring one. And that's what happens. She gets dragged down to hell with the devil, and the main girl comes back and is not possessed anymore. And then we get to like the final moments where the woman who was pregnant and did the abortion gives this monologue about how like the devil just wants you to give up. We must not lose faith. We must all work together. And the stuff that happened before this completely contradicts what she's saying here. And also, like, what's happening on screen is like all these happy things, you know, the girl's back to school and everything. We see like one shot of the boring parents grieving about their child's death. Like, everyone is so happy. And then, big spoiler alert here, but I don't care. We get a little 5-second point at the screen moment where Reagan shows up. Like, she says no lines, she gives Chris a hug. It's basically just there to make you go, oh, look, remember her, remember her. And it's the same with Chris as well. It's so cheap. And that's it. And now back to, like, the actual ending. This ending really pissed me off because, to me at least, it's kind of saying you've got to make sacrifices to the devil to get your own way. Like, what a terrible message to send to the audience. When this was happening, I was with a friend. She was laughing about my reactions. I shouldn't be like, like, to an Exorcist film. Like, what was that ending? I absolutely hated that ending. You know, the film comes up with like, oh, we have to work together to defeat this evil. And then you kind of just give into it at the end. And it is so bad, so cheap. It's just there for shock factor. And I know people are saying, oh, but they're doing too more. No, I'm sorry, no. I can already see where they're going to conclude it, to be honest. But the fact they're even stretching this out into a trilogy is just kind of trashy, if I'm being honest. So yeah, the Exorcist Believer, wow. And if I'm going to get into anything else about this film, especially the direction, like, the direction of this is just so soulless. The camera never moves. The editing in this was so bad. Cuts are way too quick. And some of the editing just tries to do, like, jump scares. Like, where one of the girls is explaining what she saw, they just intercut, like, quick shots of demon faces with a loud noise. It's just not scary. It just gets annoying after 5 seconds. It's so annoying. And with the performances, they're fine. You could tell some people are phoning in at times, especially the woman who plays Chris. But the two girls, for the most part, are really good. They are at least really, really, really trying, and I have to respect that. And if I'm going to say anything else good about this film, I think the makeup artist did a really good job. You could tell they put 110% into their work. I really hope they got paid well because they fully deserve it. So yeah, The Exorcist Believer, to me, is a bit of an offensive, and it just completely sends the wrong message with its ending. I'm sorry that I spoiled pretty much the whole movie, but this is, like, the most cash grab horror film I've seen in a while. And it's a film I really suggest you do not see. As I said earlier, even if you're, like, the biggest Exorcist fan, don't go and support this film. Seriously. I'm dreading the next two films. David Gordon Green, you know, like, stick to comedy, man. That's where you were decent at, not horror. The Exorcist Believer, to me, it's one of the worst films of this year, easily. And I'm going to give it, like, a 2 out of 10, a 1.5 out of 10. To me, I do think Exorcist 2 is worse, because that film was just... boring 24/7. At least this film had, like, laughable moments. But that's just no excuse. It doesn't make the film so bad it's good. It's still an incredibly boring movie. So yeah, don't go see The Exorcist Believer. But if you have seen it, let me know your thoughts. Because I know some people don't mind it, but I don't see why people are liking it, to be honest. But yeah, guys, please let me know of your thoughts on this film if you have seen it. Next video, I don't really know. I'm sorry I didn't do the Ahsoka one, but I might do it next week, actually. I've got a script going, so we'll see what happens. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Have a good day. See you later.